It was like something out of a crime thriller, museum director Matthias Wemhoff tells me. He found it electrifying. He's talking about the recent archaeological discovery of sculptures from the 1920s and 30s. Works condemned by the Nazis as degenerate art. Art historians believed they were irretrievably lost. Then, decades later, they were discovered in Berlin during excavations for a new underground railway line. Matthias Wemhoff says the find was dramatic. He shows me a bronze head which only just escaped the bulldozers. It made a clanking sound as it fell from the blade, he says. One of the workers took a closer look and immediately recognized that it was a work of art. There's another amazing find he wants to show me in the Stone Age room. Coming up, he tells me, is the oldest Berlin resident in the exhibition, an elk. It was found in 1956 at Hansaplatz, also during excavations for a Berlin underground line. The elk is over 12,000 years old. It's astonishing how complete the skeleton is. The next curiosity is part of an oak tree trunk, 3,000 years old. It was used as the mouth of a well. Inside, some cups were found. And in the bottom of the cups were vestiges of intoxicating beverages, the earliest evidence of big parties being held in Berlin, he tells me. Traces of the first Berlin rave. Now I'm really interested. I want to know more about what's being found in Berlin's ancient soil. I set off for the Rotes Rathaus, Berlin's Red Town Hall. In front of it, archaeologists are hard at work. The extension of the Underground Railway provides an excellent opportunity to explore Berlin's past. Since they found the sculptures here that I saw at the museum, they're bulldozing more carefully. I'm in luck. I meet the man who dug up the bronze head with his bulldozer. He tells me it's difficult to see everything, but when they tip the earth from the bulldozer blade onto the truck, they do it very carefully, bit by bit. And that's how he discovered the head. Michael Hofmann leads the archaeological team, which is busy at work in all weather. He guides me through this labyrinth of a construction site. The oldest cellar room they've found so far dates back 700 years. We're standing in the area of the medieval town hall, Hofmann tells me. He says they're very pleasantly surprised about how many interesting building remains they've uncovered, like this pillar, for example. I'm less impressed with the pillar than I am with how distinct the different layers are. It's easy to recognize them. There are discoveries to be made in each layer, and each reveals something more about Berlin life at the time. They found something, but what is it? The men say it doesn't look like a coin. It seems to be a flat piece of stone, perhaps from a drinking vessel. But these other things are coins, most likely 15th century halfpennies. Once they're taken into the workshop, they can be clearly identified and their date determined. And that's useful information. Once the archaeologists know the date of the coins, they can work out the age of the other finds. In the meantime, the rains got heavier. It's unpleasant, not only for me, but also for the archaeologists who are trying to work here. Manuel Escovedo says they have to carry on despite the weather. They're under time pressure because work on the underground starts soon. I'm definitely not wearing the right shoes for a muddy construction site. I need to get dry, so I set off for the place the finds are taken to. The workshops of the Museum of Prehistory and Early History. Here I'm allowed to look over the shoulder of Shakir Akbash, who's a restorer. First, the finds are X-rayed. Often they're so thickly encrusted that only on the X-ray picture can the researchers determine exactly what the item is. Here, it's a knife. Shakir Akbash carefully removes the rust. One floor up, I meet another of the archaeologists, Claudia Melisch. And I get a whole new perspective on the word challenge. She tells me at first it's impossible to even imagine that objects can be reconstructed from all these tiny broken pieces. But she says they can, and she'll show me how. Holger Matz is master of 11,000 bits of broken tile. Claudia Melisch tells me he spends the whole day just sorting them. I think I'd enjoy puzzling out the pieces for a few hours, but every day? Holger Matz has a philosophical approach to the job. He says, if you look, you rarely find anything. You look for certain numbered pieces on this table, on the table at the back. You've had them in your hand 5,000 times. Now you can't find them. Then by chance, 3 fit together, or maybe a complete tile. Then you're delighted. It's all a matter of experience. Claudia Melisch says some people take one look and give up immediately. They say it makes them feel ill. But for us, she says, this is wonderful material. We recreate stoves that used to warm people in the city. They're part of our cultural heritage. I ask whether they're reconstructing a stove from these pieces. She explains that you could make several different stoves from these tiles. They could just build one, but they don't do that until they're certain. As researchers, they want to build a stove exactly as it was. That's difficult, but they do get there. Claudia Melisch takes me to the place where she excavated the tiles. This was the town center in the Middle Ages, she tells me. It's hard to believe when you just look at the 6-lane road. The archaeologists have built a temporary shelter over the top of the foundation walls of an old school for learning Latin. The cobblestones still show traces of the fire that burnt down the school in 1730. She shows me the tool she worked with. A trowel like this is the traditional tool of archaeologists, she says, although they also use bulldozers and shovels. At first, I think I've misunderstood. Did she dig out this great big hole with that little thing? Not quite, says Claudia Melisch. She explains that it's a new tool, and she shows me her old one, which used to be the same size. She even seems surprised herself at all she's found here. You can hardly believe you're sitting in the Middle Ages here, she says, that you're looking at surfaces that people in the Middle Ages were walking on. And up above, 6 lanes of traffic are roaring by. But maybe that's why archaeology is so fascinating in Berlin. Because it's so difficult to imagine that there once was a medieval town here.